Halo malam. Ada suara nggak sih? Halo, 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 halo. Ada suaranya, bagus lah kalau gitu. Halo Haidar, Peter, Lukas, Map, Imung, Unagami. Halo. Peter Parker juga halo. So today we gonna do some short Scrimshaw. It's a visual novel thriller horror game, I guess. It's about an alien whale, and we are a researcher on this alien planet. So let's see how it turned out. Yep. Aku benerin audio dulu ya. Halo, gimana pada makan belum? Have you already eat, guys? Udah makan belum? Semoga suara aku nggak putus-putus ya. Harusnya udah fix sih. Ya nggak? Woi. Udah, kita mulai aja nih. Semoga resolusinya bener ya guys ya. Aku lihat sih nggak ada masalah ya guys ya. Option. Ya udah. Kalau window ada ini, ada ya, oke, aman. Are you good? Thank you. Udah cerita nih. So, capture cursor. Okay, all good. Let's start. Welcome to the Scrimshaw. Oh my god, it's hard to pronounce. Nggak ada suaranya ya, harus gede suaranya soalnya. Short Scrimshaw is a linear read, but there are some information tangents to explore. The text of different color can be clicked to learn more about the subject. Oh, contohnya kayak gini, biar bisa diklik. Oke. This is work of fiction. Ini bohongan ya guys ya. And the actual person or living or dead or actual event is planned purely coincidental. Okay. This should be interesting, guys. That surprised me.
The Corporation for Earth Media is proud to present this educational program. Produced in conjunction with the frontier scientists, engineers, and artists of the Kronos 7 expedition.
Hello, Kronos 7? Oh, this expedition sounds like a Dead Space expedition ship.
South Scrimshaw is made possible through the support of viewers like you. Thank you.
Chapter 1, Bird.
Hot sunlight shines through the veined membrane of an aquatic egg.
Aquatic egg? So this is inside of an egg? Interesting.
It was once carried in deeper, cooler waters of a more northern latitude. Now it bobs freely in a subtropical shallow.
What is
The consciousness dawning inside is prodded alert in discomfort.
Oh, ini whale. This is the baby whale.
It is a male whale calf,
that.
stirring with a newfound awareness of body.
Oh.
This pod has held him for 17 months, nurtured his development from a single fertilized cell. Now it can no longer support his life. The inflow of nutrients and oxygenated blood has ceased. A once comfortable cradle now pinches at his enlarged form. Pushed onto his own faculty, a suffocating urge to thrash wells up inside him. Yet he hesitates. A song booms from the world outside. The powerful low frequency vibrates through his whole body.
It's so cute. I want to give it a head pat.
With the certainty of deep imprinting, the calf knows who is calling. It is his mother.
That's the mother calf. Interesting.
She is on the other side. He must join her. The shell containing him is now only a brittle husk, swollen with waste material and straining at the seams. Clumsy first movements form the start of the calf's motor awareness. The egg is evolved to rupture open along a central seam. A few thin cartilage bands are all that retain him.
Wait, emangnya whale itu asalnya dari telur ya guys ya? Kayak ayam gitu bertelur.
One more forceful effort and he will escape.
Enggak kan? Ya, karena ini whale-nya alien jadi gitu. Konbanwa Ariel, halo. Scout Scrimshaw.
Technically speaking, the whale didn't hatch from an egg. Egg is something of a misnomer.
Meng, halo desu-kan?
While there are known egg-laying mammals, none of them are whales.
Oh, they are not egg-laying mammals. Tidak satu pun dari itu adalah whale. Kan paus? Whale itu kan paus. Ntar coba aku Google Translate ya guys ya. Bahasa Indonesianya whale. Kadang-kadang Inggris tuh pintar, kadang-kadang Inggrisnya jelek guys. Whale. Iya bener, ikan paus. Ikan paus. Ikan paus. Batu tulisan putihnya bisa diklik, kita klik ya.
There are 4 extant species of egg-laying mammal. They are the platypus.
Platypus, iya ini mamalia yang bertelur guys. Kaneko on fashion.
The echidna.
Tahu baru pertama kali denger sih ada hewan ini.
The snorb.
Snorb, look, it has a cute nose.
And the ribbon snore.
Ribbon snore. Oh, this animal is so fictional. Oh, it looks like a dragon or a lizard, to be honest.
This whale species has a placental connection to the mother while developing. Birthing shell is the term currently favored in scientific journals when discussing this style of external womb.
External womb, I see.
The outer cartilage folds backwards, shrinking the space inside and expelling the contents outwards. creating pressure against the inner membrane until it finally pops. The calf spills out into the open ocean.
Oh, so cute,
The
calf.
world is a rush of sensory stimulation. The newborn is momentarily stunned limp.
Oh, beautiful,
He comes to
beautiful.
amid a dizzying flurry of life. Plants and protists tangle and snag his every movement. Small scavengers eagerly devour the cloud of waste. Plants unfurl and retract in almost animalistic locomotion.
Ntar ya, ini kayaknya CPU aku overload deh, bentar. Dari tadi soalnya kayak stuttering gitu. Ntar ya. Diserang, iya diserang. Diserang siapa? Think this should be working fine now. Lanjut.
Foliage clings to the calf from above. He swims deeper to escape. His mother's song reassures him once again, but she is still nowhere in sight. Sponges, wharf biters, crustaceans and corals dangle from the plants like ornaments.
Plant is not a misnomer. These are true plants.
Si punya kannya yang diserang. Iya. Tadi gamenya jalan lancar terus tiba-tiba kayak stuttering gitu.
As with so much else in biology, the origin of plants can be traced back to the water. Albeit those early ancestors were far less complex than what we see today. As will be explained later, marine environments impose steep challenges on plants. It was once upon land freed from the burdens of an aquatic life that plants could more readily diversify and form.
Interesting.
And it was also after that great proliferation of flowering species that some plants found it more favourable by the water and eventually returned to the seas. They are, in that sense, like whales.
Something solid. He's being lifted back towards the surface.
Mic-nya aku jatuh, sorry.
The calf breaches, filling his lungs with their first breath of air. This is the breeding ground of his species. At the year's peak, this wide expanse fills with whales.
Oh. Tapi nggak ada whale lain ya, kosong.
But today our calf finds the surface empty. Except for a very odd clump of plants.
Clump of plants, keren. Tanamannya ini. Ada pulau kecil, guys. Look how cute it is. Look at the big eyes.
The calf does not know what to make of it.
Paus,
Equally
iya,
disturbed
paus.
and compelled, he stares transfixed. Plants continue to tickle his body just below the water. A resident waterbug examines him with equal skepticism. Sudden movement atop the leafy mass catches his eye.
Ada burung. Burungnya makan serangga. Waduh.
It's all too frightening for the little one. He retreats back under the surface. His overpowering instinct is to nurse, but he cannot. His exhaustion mounts and fear seizes him. He is lost. And as if sensing his weakness, tendrils begin to grasp at him.
Dia diserang sama ini ya, sama tentakel, sama jaring-jaring.
A vine lassos his fluke. There is no escape. In a final burst of strength, the calf fights, thrashing, tearing, and uprooting his attackers. A scent of blood enters the water.
Loh, kok tanamannya berdarah?
His mother cries a pained song to soothe him.
Itu emaknya.
The calf is hit with the sudden realization.
Tanamannya ternyata itu emaknya, guys.
The strange plants are not taking him away from his mother.
Halo Bang Dewa, halo.
The strange plant clod is his mother.
What? Mamanya digerebukin tumbuhan, guys. Kok bisa gitu? The Brillo whale. Nah, jadi nama spesiesnya Brillo whales. Interesting. Oh, di chapter 2 aja, cepet banget. Ini tentang ikan paus alien di dunia lain. Ini nyeritain perjalanannya dia gitu. Jadi kayak visual novel lah basically. Memakai lumutan, wah parah sih.
What evidence remained of this year's Brillo breeding season has long since been swept away. This sandbar has returned to its normal, pristine state. Save for one unusual pile of rocks.
Ada X-ray. Wah, di dalam batunya ada ikan lele, guys. Oh, stondok. Ya, dikit ikan lele.
Somewhat like a hermit crab, this animal lives in a portable shelter of foreign
crab.
material.
Free game ya, free game gratis. It's a free game. Halo Harisa, halo Yuri.
It grasps together a shell of scavenged of debris with its long limbs and secretes an adhesive mucus to hold it fast. Stone dogs mostly rely on ambushing prey from a camouflaged position. Right now, this stone dog here is not the hunter, but the hunted.
Wah, dia diburu.
It is a woefully obvious attempt to hide, as the predator stalking it possesses one of the sharpest minds in the ocean.
Lucu dia ngintip.
A quick check if the coast is clear. It isn't.
Wah, dipelototin sama bayi ikan paus kita. Sembunyi
Our
lagi.
whale calf wants to play, not eat. But from the stone dog's perspective, there's little difference.
Iya, nih udah full voice gitu kalau kata aku, jadi udah ada voice line-nya semua. Nah, yang satu minta main, yang satu kira mau makan, parah-parah. Nih, stondoknya kayak, let me go.
Since hatching, our calf has been a healthy and energetic specimen. Despite his late birth, no complications are detectable. If anything, his cognitive ability is showing swift advancement. He is very fond of holding his fluke above the water surface. Scattered showers are currently moving through the area. The calf has been emerging frequently for visual inspection since the rain began. He seems very interested in the weather above. A long call reminds him not to stray too far. Brillos have surprisingly keen vision above the water. The calf is quickly able to spot his mother. This is the farthest distance he has travelled from her. It is more than twice that of yesterday.
Oh, cool. Dia main jauh,
Today
guys.
was quite an adventure. Now, reminded of his mother, all this bravery seems to evaporate. He is suddenly anxious to be at her side. He will bring her any interesting objects discovered while exploring.
Kalau lagu visual novelnya kekerasan bilang ya. Kalau di headset aku sih udah pas. Waduh, stondoknya dilempar mental.
And boot it at her face.
Waduh.
His mother is trying to rest off another bout of nausea. This play is a bit much.
Gila, lucu banget.
But these discomforts are trivial to the bond between mother and child. Our neural interface even shows a measurable relief in her symptoms during these interactions. The calf's carefree play is training for future hunts and the essential skills of survival, but it will be some time before he has to worry about earning meals on his own. His mother's long, prehensile udders reach him through the thorny bramble. The milk he nurses on is thick as yogurt.
Oh, ada susunya. Mamanya ada susu, guys.
Calves subsist
Hello,
on this fat-rich
Nathan.
diet for 2 years, building up an insulating layer of blubber. And the bands of spongy tissue for other organisms to burrow into. Here we arrive at what truly makes a Brillo whale such a remarkable specimen for study. Symbiosis of unrivaled complexity and variety. This female was initially selected for study due to her exquisitely beautiful exterior. The mammal is almost totally concealed within the undulating botanical mass. In cross-section, the distinction between whale and passenger is more visible.
Ternyata beneran emaknya dong. Jadi emaknya ditumbuhin sama ini
Unlike the stone dog
sama
shown
tumbuhan.
earlier, this is not simply an external attachment of foreign material. The Brillo whale has an intimate connection to thousands of other living creatures. The whale chooses from among a variety of partner species.
Jadi literally tanamannya itu tumbuh ke dalam tubuh si ikan pausnya, guys.
And offers real estate within designated regions of its body. An inner membrane draws the line between the welcome cohabitation space and the whale's vitals. This unusual arrangement raises several questions, the first of which we will address. What is the benefit of living on a whale?
Living on a whale? Oh my god.
To help us illustrate the principle, we will be assisted by a sea bunny, or sea bun, to use its more common nickname.
Ih, lucu si Bunny.
The South Scrimshaw team has received very explicit direction from our producers, and we are to unequivocally clarify to viewers that the sea bun is not a real animal.
Emang ikan fosa real animal juga enggak kan?
The sea bun owes its creation to the original landing party of Kronos 5.
Oh.
Though the specifics are lost, the most convincing story is that it was something misheard over a shoddy radio connection. As those early years recede into contemporary legend, it is important to remember that the tales of hardship told by the first landing party are not exaggerated. The pioneers were indeed isolated for 11 solar cycles, and it was not until the conclusion of the hostilities on Earth that the current biannual delivery schedule could be planned. The uncharted planet was a land of mysterious fauna and unknown environmental hazards.
Gila ceritanya manusia udah bisa explore planet lain, guys.
It was a time where technology seemed to suffer inexplicable malfunctions, while repair efforts were always undermined by a constant lack of materials, tools, and manpower.
Look at that fish. Ikan ditambahin telinga sama kaki.
The myth of the sea bun serves as caricature for the force of chaos, always at work. when one's back is turned. Sea
Malam
bunnies
halamon,
was a sort
siapa
of
kabar?
shorthand for, I don't know what's
Tanosi.
wrong, it could be anything, including a cryptid. Among our seniors who were present at the time, one likened the expression to "here be dragons" on medieval maps. Another
Hello,
drew a
Nako,
parallel with
welcome.
Murphy's Law. Somewhere along the line, either as
Kabar.
intentional jokes or honest misunderstanding of colourful communiques, word of sea bunnies repeatedly escaped the planet in a way interpreted as fact by those off-world. Compounding this misinformation was a popular hazing
Sampai jam
ritual
berapa?
where
Sekali
new
sampai
arrivals
ini
were
beres
assigned to
aja
catch
sih.
a sea bun for research, usually being given a butterfly net and sent somewhere isolated and moderately
Kayaknya
dangerous.
sejaman deh ini.
A unique culture planetside encouraged the escalation of this practice, until a few near disasters brought a legislated end to the budding tradition.
Interesting note. Kalian bisa pause streamnya terus baca note-nya deh.
Regular infrastructure improvements have
Enjoying
also
the
blunted
yeah,
the
this
disgruntled
documentary is
sarcasm
nice.
towards
Halo, NubNub,
occasional
welcome.
hardship.
Baik, kabar baik. Senang juga, aku merasa bahagia kok. It's fine, it's fine. Nah, kok gimana, nah kok? Monci gimana? Monci udah makan belum?
In recent years, the sea bunny is most defined by Will Voynich's cartoons.
Oh, si Bunny so cute.
Kids Wilderness is a monthly publication created and edited by Will Voynich, written and illustrated by Voynich and various contributors. Using friendly illustrations, it focuses on natural science, camping, and health and wellness. It joins the official Sunday newspaper as one of the planet's only 2 print publications. Voynich was originally a cartographer and among those first to land with Kronos 5.
Ini game apa? Video ikan. Video ikan, memang tentang ikan. Video soal novel.
Children's literature
Tapi
only became a
termasuk game,
guiding
kan?
passion after he discovered himself a soon-to-be father, and realised how very little would be available for the new generation by way of age-appropriate entertainment and education. On off hours at the Cartographic Survey Computer Lab, using optical scanners and image editing software designed for map-making, Voynich painstakingly constructed his first works. 5 volumes containing every fable he could remember from his own childhood.
Oh, amazing fable.
While he faithfully retells many of these timeless classics, Voynich's recall is often hazy. Several of the stories are so misremembered they are more original work than adaptations.
So
For
good
example,
morning,
The
NubNub.
Elephant and the Mouse retains nothing from the Aesop tale
And good night
besides the
for
titular
everyone
animals.
else.
Voynich's version has the two discussing the different sorts of dreams they have while sleeping.
Ah, bener sih, Max. Ini bagus buat bikin kamu tidur.
Voynich's first intentional works of fiction would be penned for kids'
Jadi kayak
wilderness.
dongeng kan? Ada yang ngomongnya, ada yang itunya. Halo Ranger Dog, halo, apa kabar?
The Adventures of Seabun and Monaco.
So cute. The fish and the sea bun. I want to give them head pat. The Adventure of Seabun and Monaco. Seabun is the telecommunication network. Interesting.
The accessible charm of Seabun and Monaco found an immediate and enthusiastic audience. Currently playing are musical arrangements from the puppet show adaptation, which has been touring schoolhouses. The songs were composed and performed by Nico Kuprin. The formula of each adventure largely follows the same beats. Seabun, an ocean sprite with impish curiosity and an endless appetite for inedible material, happens upon some unknown piece of infrastructure and decides to devour it. Meanwhile, Monaco, a nervous eel sidekick who always follows Seabun, watches on in comically exaggerated terror while imagining the most nightmarish possible outcomes.
Explode.
These predictions of doom never come to pass. But Seabun's actions do cause significant damage, forcing construction crews to deploy for repairs. Seabun, now realising his error, uses his supernatural strength to help workers in various ways and atones for his
Kaneko
destructive
kesedihan, bukan tidur
acts.
lagi dia pingsan.
Everything
Waduh.
is then rebuilt stronger than before. The story formula seeks to inform young readers about vital infrastructure, where it is found, what happens if it breaks, and the sort of specialised work that maintenance requires. It also seeks to make the harsh edges of a frontier life less frightening and unknown to young readers. Each story ends with the sleepy Seabun returning to his burrow with a souvenir where he slumbers peacefully.
Interesting
That
story.
is, until he gets hungry again.
Jadi ingat Ratatouille, iya, mirip lagunya, mirip Ratatouille. French gitu kan.
Given how entrenched the character has become in the popular consciousness here, we feel it appropriate that the Seabun help guide our exploration of these oceans.
While each species has its own unique adaptation to this niche lifestyle, we can create several broad categories of benefits such evolution aims to harness. Moving through water takes energy. It is far easier to travel great distance when someone else is doing the swimming. Simply hitching a ride can be greatly beneficial. For example, one species of crab only lives on Brillo whales every other generation and uses whale transportation to greatly expand its range. Unless one is the apex predator, the threat of being eaten is an ever-present reality. If one lives as a potential meal, it is very important to be the least desirable, most difficult of meals. Finding alliance with a giant beast and living under its protection creates a very effective deterrence. It's always still possible to be eaten, but hunters now risk facing off with a leviathan. Some partnerships are more proactive. Certain shark, skates, rays and scarps have formed hunting partnership with the Brillos.
Oh,
They help find and catch quarry, then share in the feast. Pack hunting allows the Brillo to take down larger and different sorts of prey. The blood or waste of Brillo whales can also provide a source of nourishment. This not offered freely. Obviously, a Brillo whale cannot stand to be eaten alive. An Earth parallel is an oxpecker bird on a rhinoceros. The bird may drink a marginal amount of blood while it cleans off ticks. It's a fair trade for the rhinoceros, as the tick is the far greater threat. So too will a Brillo whale expend blood in a beneficial relationship. In several instances, living on a Brillo has evolved into part of an organism's life cycle, and the specific conditions regulated in a Brillo's body are required for a new generation. In some cases, this goes even further, with the biology of the two species becoming so enmeshed it is unclear where one ends and the other begins. But these instances are rare.
so cute.
Our research team is very interested if these extreme cases represent a functioning system, or all of these riders taking in small amounts adds up to a great expense for the host. This prompts the obvious next question. What does the whale stand to benefit from this arrangement? This is more complicated to respond to. There seems to be as many answers as there are Brillo whales, as there is spectacular variety among Brillos. For now, let us approach the answer with specific examples from this mother. The most prominent feature along her body is the wide variety of photosynthesizing organisms. The whale is, of course, not an autotroph producing her own energy from sunlight, but the specialized sea flora pays rent by sharing some of their sugars into her blood. When light is low, roots ferment, and alcohol is also created as a byproduct. Certain plants near her head also act as fishing lures, drawing food to her maw. While she may occasionally swim deeper, a partially plant-subsidized life has locked her within the photic zone, the upper aquatic layer where enough sunlight can sustain the leaves. Adult Brillo behavior and biology is often dramatically influenced by their symbiotic arrangement. Here we see a blood trilobite. This is not an invited guest. A long needle-like proboscis pushes down and taps a vein.
kutu guys.
Drinking in great volume and offering nothing in return, it is a true parasite. This is a job for the vellum worm.
Jadi kayak dulu diberjain serba sama auto. Iya kan. Halo Tan Steph, halo Tan.
Vellum worms fill their stomachs by grooming brillos of unwanted visitors.
What is the Kaneko doing? Playing visual novels about a whale? Alien whale.
It is currently hypothesized that vellum worms distinguish the welcome from the attackers through smell and taste. Parasites have all been found to have elevated amounts of a bile-like brillo waste inside them. This mother brillo also has to worry about creatures browsing her lovely plants. Herbivorous fish attempt frequent raids on the leafy goods. This one is alone and quite oblivious. The vellum worm packs a powerful punch for larger animals. A neurotoxin-filled barb is shot into the fish's heart. It can only manage a faint muscle spasm before the venom completes its work. The brillo whale strategy is called a symbiotic garden. It is an intentionally cultivated arrangement and a precarious balance of mutual reliance. When successfully maintained, the host becomes a morass of life. It is usually defended from attack. It can sometimes acquire energy in novel ways, and occasionally it is able to invade new niche ecosystems. The universal downside experienced by all brillos is that more complexity creates more points for failure. An adult brillo's life is dominated by the struggle to groom a semblance of order into increasingly overgrown flanks. To a simple calf, these adult problems have yet to enter his mind. Today he has found his mother's leaves serve as fun streamers to play with. She finally scolds him. She is too unwell to tolerate any more roughhousing. He doesn't quite understand, but he has other diversions.
Vicky, apa kabar? Halo.
Primarily drinking more of her milk.
Minum tutu lagi.
Given the complexity of brillo anatomy, even small health problems can swiftly spiral out of control. This female experienced complications while giving birth. There is the potential for the situation to worsen. A thorned branch has become ingrown, puncturing through both the layer of protective outer muscle and the cuticle barrier.
Akar pohonnya.
This had begun prior to carving, but her contractions to extend the womb also caused the plant shard to stab deeper. The spikes are now in contact with her intestines. Fortunately, there is no puncture yet. The site is inflamed and white blood cells flood the area. The immune system unmistakably identifies this as an injury. We can witness her stiff reluctance to move and read a jolt in brain activity when she's jostled. It must be greatly painful.
Very good, very good. Mengsadness, no, jangan mengsadness dong, Vicky.
The greatest danger right now is a tear of the intestines, which would certainly be fatal. There is reason to hope. Our scans also reveal that she has recovered from a similar injury in the past. Perhaps brillos regularly endure such ghastly wounds. Perhaps it was the safety of the brillo herd which afforded her enough time to convalesce. Certainly her odds of survival will be boosted greatly if she is able to make the long swim back. For now, she is still well enough to care for her newborn, though doing so must be exhausting. Judging by several physical indicators, this is most likely her first calf. Those brillos who manage their gardens well can be extremely long-lived. Females can give birth as many as 8 times.
Buset, punya anak 8 kali, okay.
If the calf survives, one day he too might also cast his genes
Lagunya,
forward,
iya,
his
bagus
own
kok.
minute fingerprint on the future's shape. Regardless of whatever metric of success we observers of an outside species might apply, his life will be led by the means it was forged, in the crucible of natural selection. But, for now, a rare moment of shelter.
Gimana aja lucu lagunya. Relax. Kok lucu sih, relaxing aku. Bagus kan, bagus. Departing, oh udah mau berangkat mereka guys.
This is a simplified map of the local ocean topography. The deep blue represents a fault line, the planetary scar where two tectonic plates meet. As with Earth, this land is a moving crust atop a globe of molten metal. The planet-shaping force of subduction pushed ground up above the sea, creating what is now named the Chartreuse Archipelago. The island chain runs for about 870 kilometers, drawing a ragged line away from the continent.
Not
These names
Scrimshaw.
were given by an early survey team assessing the grounds for a harbour or research outpost. The body of water created between the Scrimshaw Islands
So it's literally a island name. Jadi kita jadi pausnya enggak. Kita jadi third point of view gitu loh. Jadi kita jadi kayak researchernya.
is known as the Thalo Bay. The large inlet is exactly what
Ceritanya
a
kita
Brillo whale
nonton
breeding ground
Nat
requires.
Geo gitu, National Geographic gitu loh.
Outside of that season, the whales live elsewhere. Usually, they are found at coral reefs and areas more productive with food. Brillos require a very high-calorie diet. We now find our whales here, at the border to the Great Vathis Ocean. It is a bright day in early autumn. An unseasonable cold front chills the air. Below the surface, we find our mother, bracing for the journey. Judging by her mobility, her health has much improved. The delay is likely not related to her recovering wounds. The distance between the Thalo Bay and the southern reef is inhabited by many large predators. Many Brillo calves are taken in these waters. Her loud songs are searching for another Brillo's response. She has been making these calls since before dawn. She does not want to make this journey alone. The calf returns with a fresh lungful of oxygen. And quickly retreats back to the bramble under his mother. For once, he does not need to be told to stay close.
Lucu kan, dia lucu banget.
Undoubtedly, he can also read the change in his mother's behavior. And the unfamiliar place ahead is deeper and colder.
Loha, ada Yuki. Halo, Yuki. Welcome.
Faintly at first, a new sound reaches them. His mother startles. They both listen.
Ada predator.
It's another whale. A Brillo whale, and it is getting nearer. Our mother booms a reply back.
Sudah paus.
The calf's curious nature starts to show itself
Nggak
again.
bisa.
He has yet to meet a
I
Brillo
cannot.
besides his mother.
Nanti aku coba deh ya.
There. He spots something. A large body begins to emerge from the hazy distance. It continues to approach, but the calf still can't quite understand what he's looking at. The calf's curiosity morphs into discomfort the closer it gets. Discomfort turns into outright alarm. He pleads to his mother in distress. She rebukes him in reply as if to say, "Don't be rude to the new neighbors." One cannot blame him for his confusion.
What was that?
This Brillo whale's appearance was shaped to be deceptive. It is a beautiful and ghastly example of mimicry. The way the jaws gently undulate is startlingly believable.
Ini game apa?
exterior is the
Tentang
work of an important symbiotic
ikan
partner.
paus alien. Visual novel sih, bukan game jatuhnya. Tapi visual novel kan game juga, jadi ya game tentang itu. Kan ikan paus.
The Weaverlobe. These prodigious builders turn their
Viannya tuh
colonies
kayak
into
Nat Geo
terrifying
gitu stylenya.
scarecrows by spinning
Kayak
and
lagi
sculpting
nonton
Osama.
Nat Geo gitu lah pokoknya. Apa nih bisa dikit kaki?
Osoma is a long-chain polymer found in great abundance here. It is totally novel to our researchers. When soft, it is similar in texture to a neoprene diving suit. Through a curing process, it can be hardened to various levels.
Oh, kayak armor, keren.
In its stiffest state, it resembles the chitin shell of a beetle. A second documentary team is currently compiling all of the latest discoveries. Building bugs. This multi-part series will focus exclusively on the insect world, which seems
Ikan
far
paus bisa
more
nggak ya? Wah, kayaknya
diverse
seru ya.
from Earth species than vertebrates.
Baiklah ya.
The title refers both to insects that build habitats and the evolutionary forces which likely constructed such insects. Until then, we hope our simple introduction to this material suffices.
Water is channeled through the layered construction, swelling and emptying various pockets, creating animal-like locomotion. Our resident Weaverlobe expert insists that the beastly facade before us here should have taken many decades to complete. It also seems unlikely that it was built from scratch on the whale's back. Perhaps if Weaverlobes are able to relocate such structures, an established colony was simply carried on to the Brillo's back. Such a fearsome appearance does much to ward off predators. The reversed head may also help to confuse prey. We do not know why she was left behind, but this Brillo is a valuable addition to the ocean crossing.
Ya, jadi untuk nipu ini ya, nipu predator gitu. Jadi kelihatannya mukanya serem, guys.
She
Paus
too
punya
has a
kaki jadi
mother,
peliharaan.
looking
Wow.
to deliver her child to safety.
Bisa.
It seems that all Brillo calves are quite shy around new acquaintances. Our calf growls to himself.
Lah kenapa dia growls to himself?
Scoldings are unlikely to budge his unwelcoming attitude. Nor will the surprise of additional friends. The calf was so distracted by what was in front of him that he failed to notice what was swimming up from behind.
Ada predator kah? Waduh, gawat.
She's something like a faceless stone golem. The exterior is more bizarre than menacing. It might serve as some kind of armor, but our crew is at a loss to describe it on first sight. Like our Brillo mother, this whale may also have some kind of internal injury. She is only able to produce short, abrupt honks instead of complex songs.
Hongs. So well sounds like hongs. Hongs. Oh,
She's
there's
also a
another
mother.
baby.
Regardless of what benefit her exterior provides, her presence alone will help contribute to a safe crossing. Flanked by these strangers, our calf seems very disturbed. New experiences may be uncomfortable now, but they will lead him to understand the
Aduh, ke-skip lah. Gak bisa
His
diulang.
mother
Iya,
jolts him
hongs.
forward with a shove of her branches. It is unlikely that more companions will show up, and there is no time left to delay. All following her lead, the 6 whales head out into the ocean to find their lost herd. The pod is now 57 kilometers from the Great Southern Reef.
Asik, udah makin dekat, guys.
This is the final leg of their journey, and their path crosses over a wide abyssal trench. The parent whales set the pace at a rigorous 6 kilometers an hour. They swim in a typical defensive formation, though with only 3 adults, it is not possible to fully encircle the youths. The trek has been arduous for our little calf, but he has endured it with admirable stoicism. Slowing down is not an option. He is able to sense this himself.
Lucu ya, matanya itu kayak cute gimana
Something
gitu.
large has been following the whales. It first appeared in the early afternoon and has maintained the same steady distance ever since. Hours passed and the mysterious animal failed to approach or make any concerning moves. The calf's fear of the unknown was slowly overtaken again by interest in his new Brillo companions. The stony-skinned mother whale and her calf now swim to his left flank.
Stony skin mother. Iya sih, nggak salah. Literally badannya bentuknya kayak batu, guys.
This calf was whining earlier, but seems to have calmed.
Kakaknya aku duluan ya. Always smart, thank you Ranger Dog. Dadah. Selamat sampai jumpa lagi nanti.
The stony mother's outer surface has slowly morphed shape throughout the day, greatly reducing in size. It is as if the exterior nodules are deflating. What mechanism triggers this change or how they shrink, we do not know. Overall, she is slightly more streamlined in form than earlier. Perhaps she can intentionally contract her shell for extra mobility.
Menarik kok, Kurimu main Ark, oke.
Our calf doesn't know what to make of her either. Below him swim the mimic mother whale and her calf, along with one of our semi-autonomous light drones.
Oh, ada drone? Oh my god. Tuh kan benar, jadi itu kita tuh third person view gitu loh.
Swimming upside down is the most uncomfortable spot for a Brillo, and the mimic mother refused to take her turn until minutes ago. Her stubbornness may not be entirely unreasonable. While upside down, her disguise as a wide-jawed monster appears to fall apart. The illusion of a toothy beast is currently broken. Our calf gets a reassuring hum from his mother. This always seems to quell his unease. He is safe within her nest of thorn, but it's hard to ignore that ominous thing in the distance. This is a penumbra shark. It is the fastest marine animal on the planet.
Oh, ada predator.
For the penumbra, 6 kilometers an hour is a leisurely pace. It could comfortably stalk the whales days on end. An apex hunter, patient with experience, it will preserve all possible energy for an opportune strike. Very much like a sailfish, penumbra sharks have a large dorsal fin along their back. This is kept retracted until the moment of attack.
I hope the kid is safe.
With several flicks of the tail, it vanishes from sight.
Oh.
Panic overtakes the whales and the defensive formation immediately breaks apart. Our calf looks down. The mimic mother has abandoned her post.
Ya, be.
Nothing stands between our calf and the open abyss below.
Buset. Tiba-tiba ada yang gigit.
The fight or flight reaction is as intense as it is instantaneous. A full threat alarm floods from the hypothalamus, shooting through every nerve and chemical pathway. Adrenaline pumps into the blood. The perception of time dilates. Details of the world suddenly stand out with vivid intensity, even in this low light. 2 rows of white teeth are searingly clear. The calf finds his own fins now move in slow motion too. Seawater suddenly feels solid, suspending him in place. Trapped in harm's way, he can only watch the events unfold, until a tremble runs through the thorns surrounding him. The mother's branches are held under tension and can be released with the force of a catapult.
Oh.
She flexes. Cords snap. And in an instant, the calf is swaddled in protective barbs and makeshift spears. The shark senses the change and shifts the attack direction to the stone mother's calf, who is exposed and helpless. Our calf momentarily loses consciousness, but the barbed vines around him act as a net. His mother whisks him away with her. As our calf comes to again, he finds an awful scent filling the water.
Ya, ada yang mati, guys. Ya, sedih.
He looks back to see what happened to his travel companion. The sight horrifies. It is the reality of predation from the perspective of the prey. Because of his mother, our calf is the survivor, and not the cautionary example for others to learn from. Less than 20 kilometers remain until the reef and the safety of their Brillo herd.
Apa tuh? Ranger Dog, makasih rendangnya. Thank you so
Ranger Dog
much.
mentraktir 1 rendang mini.
Nggak ada pesannya, Ranger Dog. Kasih ngeblank dong. Nggak apa-apa.
The mimic mother races ahead, leaving the weaker whales to their fate. The stone mother lags behind. Her movements are confused. She is still in a state of shock over the death of her child.
Ini anaknya mati, guys. Anaknya yang itu ya, yang kayak batu kah? Iya, benar.
Our calf struggles to follow. It is much harder to swim outside of a larger whale's slipstream. And his mother is falling far behind again. He races back to be by her side. The calf has been running ahead of her sight and then returning. The back and forth seem to coax his mother a little further each time. But now her strength has failed. She cannot even lift her fins in response. Her old wounds were opened by the physical exertion to save her child's life.
Ya,
She
masa
will
ibunya
not
mati
recover.
juga?
He whistles the familiar call to play.
Ini ada pesannya.
Ranger Dog mentraktir
Ya ampun.
1 rendang mini. Ini ada pesannya.
Iya, ada pesan. Makasih. Dibaca.
There is no more response.
Masa ibunya mati sih? Mengecewakan, guys.
She has finally slipped from consciousness. She cannot remain with her calf any longer. He continues to press for a reaction. Desperation compounds the grief. At this age, calves are completely dependent on a mother's milk and protection. With nowhere to go, the calf remains at her side. The research team witnesses the mother's final pulses of electrical activity fade and extinguish. There is a long pause.
Oh, masa mati? Nggak terima ini, nggak terima.
Two researchers start a heated discussion on the ethics of intervention. But before any consensus is reached, the argument is interrupted by a low rumble over the hydrophone. The stone mother never left the area. She watches our calf from a distance. A new day begins to dawn over the coral reef. Brillo whales start to stir from slumber. Together, the stone mother and our calf have arrived safely. Though physically and emotionally depleted, neither has found any sleep.
Smile. Iya, senyum.
Rangerdok mentraktir 1 rendang mini. Asteris smile.
The calf gorges on milk,
Asteris.
famished from the previous day's ordeal.
Senyum. Siap.
This adoption in the wild may be extraordinary to witness happen, but acts of apparent generosity have not been an uncommon sight to anyone following this intensely social species. The stone mother's exterior appears to now be fully deflated. We can see a more familiar shape underneath. It's the outline of a young female whale, quite small in size for an adult specimen. She has saved our calf from certain death. Perhaps our calf is helping her continue on too. The young whale finally slumbers. It is good that he takes the moment to recover while he can. He will need the rest. In the morning, he will awaken to an overwhelming new world.
Sangat tidak spek ya guys ya. Pendek ya guys ceritanya. Baru ketemu mamanya bentar mati.
The miracle of Brillos is not that other creatures can live inside the whales. This sort of arrangement is not uncommon. You, the viewing audience, have countless residents inside your own body. The miracle of Brillo whales is their ability to pick and choose their occupants. Our whale will now begin this process of selection. Providing a backdrop for the next chapter is another amazing marine animal whose colorful anatomy can construct whole ecosystems. Our Earth audience will find it a familiar species. It is the reef-building coral.
Oh. Ikannya lucu.
A bikini fish gently picks her way along a mountainous path of calcium carbonate exoskeletons. It's her daily prowl for food, and something tasty has her attention. Plump, bite-sized greebles are entrenched in the nooks below. It'll take her quite a bit of work to pry them out. As the Bikili calculates the best approach of attack, her preparations are interrupted. She joins the other fish fleeing for their lives.
Ada predator kan.
A higher caste of the food chain steals the scene. It's a spotted barnacle claw.
Itu kayak orang kecil-kecil.
One powerful yank extracts the entire colony hiding below.
That, oh my god. Like, no, don't grab me, it says.
The host Brillo whale groans with dissatisfaction. This isn't a meal fit for a leviathan. They will continue browsing for something more substantial. Our whale watches the drama unfold from a safe distance, somewhat perplexed. In the 6 years since we last rejoined him, the Great Reef has not run short of new surprises. From near and far, one can hear the calls of unknown brillos bounding off these cavernous walls. At least he still has someone familiar to rely on. His adoptive mother is usually out of sight, but never too far away. She has changed quite a great deal since we last saw her. Perhaps in response to the penumbra shark attack, she has undergone a zealous application of eye spots to her figure. While not as outwardly apparent, our young whale's body has undergone an even more radical change.
Iya, bayi pausnya kita jadi putih guys ya.
His skin layers and immune system have fully developed and are ready to host other species. This dermatological puberty is the crossroad. He must decide what sort of Brillo he will become. How does a young whale make such a crucial decision? The choices are overwhelming, the combinations are infinite, and mistakes are fatal. One way to ensure future success is to replicate past success. Brillo youths find a welcoming adult and attempt to fashion themselves in their likeness. The older whale assists with offerings of seeds, eggs, larvae, and other materials needed to begin the garden.
Suara paus.
Lanyardok mentraktir satu
Hong Hong.
rendang mini. Asteris suara paus asteris.
Suara paus hong hong.
The younger whale remains close for the years after, learning new behavior from the adult. Not every option available to a young whale is desirable. This old-timer is welcoming, but our whale is visibly uncomfortable. It isn't hard to imagine why, but on the other hand, another young Brillo might happily accept this body plan. What shapes such individual preference? Realistically, there are far too many influences to We estimate that half of Brillos choose to replicate their own mothers.
Terus dia mau jadi kayak ya.
Our whale displays this preference towards his biological mother. These ribbon plants are the same variety she once wore. Our calf returns here every day. But it is no use.
Ini tengkorak guys.
This Brillo whale is deceased. Nothing but a cleaned skeleton remains beneath the foliage.
Almost nothing. Our optics technician noticed a strange blip while alternating camera modes. Zooming in and switching to infrared, show an ordinary thermal image. As expected, the plants are close to the ambient ocean temperature, but after several seconds, the intermittent blinking resumes. This is an older model IR strobe, typically worn attached to the helmet or vest for identification in emergency situations. Upon retrieving the device and referencing the serial number, we can confirm this deceased whale was the first Brillo ever encountered by
That's so
humans.
cool. Itu udah lama banget ya, udah ratusan tahun itu ceritanya. First Some contact.
The story dates back to the early days of Outpost Zeta's construction. A fishing boat captain ignored an ominous weather forecast and went to sea collecting crab traps. The boat was smashed by a wave while returning to harbour. In the aftermath, 2 deckhands were found missing. Lodestar 1, a heavy aerial command ship able to withstand the violent winds, took off from Vajrapani Airport to begin the search. Scanning the roiling wave below, aided by GPS tracker and IR beacons, the 2 shipmates were located. They were together and clinging for their lives to some unidentified debris. The airplane circled in the turbulent sky above, tracking the men
Halo,
until
Muhammad
the
Nur Yasin.
helicopter could arrive. After further storm-related delays, RRH-307 Kingfisher launched, flying low to keep beneath the still formidable clouds. The following are archive recordings from that day.
307 Kingfisher.
Go.
307 Kingfisher. We've updated your arrival coordinates. Confirm you've received.
Solid copy, Lodestar. Received. Briefing said our guys were hiding in a cave. Is there a PIW?
Negative. Survivors are inside some kind of raft. It's the raft
Ini
that's now
si
moving.
Raffi ini berarti si Brilowell ya guys ya.
Roger. Okay, got eyes on it now.
Beneran dong.
Visual on the survivor, Captain.
Altitude. Altitude.
I see him. Gonna bring it close as I can. Our guy won't be swimming far with these waves.
Altitude. Altitude.
Copy that. Almost directly over him. Forward 15 feet. Hold.
Wah. Gitu ya.
Holding. Rescue diver's checklist complete. Sending him down. He's in. Video link is live.
Suara airnya real banget.
A couple big waves are headed your way. About 20 seconds.
Copy. I think he'll make it to the raft before the swell hits.
10 seconds.
Almost seems like the raft is moving towards him. What the fuck?
Ada matanya, ada mata ikannya. Masa bikin orangnya kaget banget.
Kingfisher? What's your status, Kingfisher? Respond.
Yeah, everyone's all alive for now. If it was gonna eat him, it would have done it already, right?
Buset, bikin kaget.
Yang mentraktir
Iya, suara
satu
helikopter tadi.
rendang mini. Asteris suara helikopter Asteris.
Suara helikopter gimana ya? Gitu ya. Gusuk. Ini Ranger Rock masih di sini kah? Katanya tadi mau pergi, mau cari makan katanya. Olah Kaneko, Alvin, apa kabar? Dia tuh matanya kelihatan banget ya.
Great. Lodestar, any thoughts?
Felix, I don't think there's any protocol for this in the handbook.
Matanya gede banget.
Cap, hold steady for a moment. I think they're coming to us. Hey, can we keep him dead? If you want to see Monster, then you'll have to feed and walk it yourself.
Feed and walk it yourself loh, Mau.
Oh, shucks, you think I'm not old enough to care for a pet? Diver's headed back down, second rescue in progress.
307 Kingfisher. Lodestar is peeling off. Good work down there.
Do you lazy because of weekend? Yeah, of course, it's
Much
weekend.
obliged, Lodestar. We'll include you in the highlight reel.
Thanks. Hey, and CC that footage to the bio nerds too. I bet they flip.
The bio-nerds, here referring to scientists of Station Zeta laboratories, soon received copies of this material. They did indeed flip.
Flip indeed.
While it is interesting that the garden can partially survive on, none of it can be transferred without the living adult to help. Our whale must find comfort in the familiar scent and touch. However, However, time spent on what he cannot have is time wasted. Waiting too long to start a garden could bring other health complications. He will have to move on. Our whale goes on a search for another plant-based Brillo. For reasons unknown, such Brillos are conspicuously absent this season. It seems as if anything resembling his mother has migrated elsewhere. One single exception is discovered. And is a spectacular example of aquatic foliage. The shaggy coat is as full and beautiful as the late mother's. But not all Brillos are welcoming. Day after day, he tries to draw the adult into play, and day after day receives the cold shoulder. The adult flatly refuses to acknowledge his existence. This male has tunnel vision on the single purpose of mating. Babysitting is not on the agenda. We watch an attempt to woo a female fail pitifully. She is clearly put off by his little sidekick, tugging roughly on his leaves.
Buset, itu notif bikin kaget terus ya. Kuru.
Langerdok mentraktir 1 rendang mini. Asteris kuru asteris.
Kururin indeed.
Days of pent-up agitation are suddenly unloaded. Our whale is chased off at the point of a skewer.
Buset, apa itu?
It may feel like a painful sacrifice, but a plant body is not an option. There's a dizzying amount of other choices remaining, and one of them will have to do. Another morning dawns. The nocturnal animals have returned to slumber, and the frantic energy of diurnal animals resumes. For our researchers, every day following the whale is a journey into an uncharted wilderness. Only a small fraction of the species here have been recorded, and there is so much inexplicable behavior to document. Recent discoveries have centered on the varieties of coral present. The reef itself is now understood to be a multi-layered structure.
Oh, interesting.
Progress and knowledge march forward through tireless work, but we often share in our young whale's bewilderment. Who is this?
Ini kayak bebek dong bentuknya.
What is on his head? What is going on? We do not know. Our whale runs away, and we simply follow. One afternoon, it seems our young whale's persistent searching has been rewarded. A loud song heralds him from the distance. A Brillo hunting party returns. Their high spirits means that all had a good kill.
Hunting party, ooh.
The group's leader is calling to our whale. Our youth remains in place but allows the adult to approach. These whales are sophisticated pack hunters.
Oh, dia temenan sama ikan hiu, guys.
The chowper, a stupid but friendly shark, totally accepts the Brillos as their own. Compared to the painful transmogrification other Brillos endure, this silky costume is minimally invasive and provides maximum returns. And it's a plant. This successful symbiosis strategy is limited only by the pack's willingness to share it with others. An open invitation from the leader is a golden opportunity. Something isn't right.
Langerdok mentraktir
Our whale
1
is
rendang
fixated
mini.
on the chowper.
Wah, suara paus asteris.
Suara palsu, wah. Oh, dia masih trauma sama
It is a
yang
tragedy
bunuh
that our
ibunya
whale
ya.
seems unable to tolerate sharks of any kind. He flees. Over the weeks, we observe our subject whale becoming increasingly distressed. critical he suppress unpleasant feelings and adopt a symbiosis plan. A Brillo whale cannot
Akhirnya
survive
berubah, iya
unplanted.
berubah. Udah time shift ceritanya berapa tahun? 5 tahun, 10 tahun tadi.
He can perceive himself failing to integrate, of course, but the building internal agitation
Look
is
at
not a
that
force that will help him adapt better.
The whale became depressed. Gitu depresi guys.
Autumn draws to a close. Several new varieties of Brillo begin to arrive from colder latitudes. These are mostly hunter archetypes who can live a life less dependent on the reef's concentrated bounty. A camouflaged whale waits for prey to swim near.
Wah, yes.
This kind of strategy requires a good deal of patience. Our whale, sensing the hunter, swims wide. The camo whale politely hails him. Other Brillo whales aren't the target of his trap. Our whale replies with mistrust and leaves. Something is wrong. Our whale's once irrepressible curiosity has grown increasingly muted.
Jadi nggak mau ini guys, nggak mau belajar. Jadi introvert.
Even wonders like bioluminescence provokes no reaction. These lamplighter fish are practicing their jousting in preparation for the annual mating competition. The event is soon. It's only a one-night affair, and they will all die immediately afterwards. We think it would be quite the enriching spectacle. But the fish seem to be of no interest. Our research objectives all involve how a planted Brillo changes gene expression throughout its life. An unplanted whale is no use to us. There is a fear that our biometric implants have been invested on a losing whale. But before we can discuss contingency plans, our Brillo finally begins to break bad habits. This unknown youth has snagged a lamplighter and presents it now to our whale. Perhaps he was enthused to share his catch and our whale happened to be closest. Brillo interactions can be opaque, but these two have clearly hit it off. For once, our whale does not withdraw. He is proactively engaging instead of passively responding.
Indeed.
It's a much welcome scene, but it begs the question, what changed? What external factors could have contributed to a more outgoing posture? Did our cameras miss a life-changing event? Does this stranger seem less threatening than all the others? It is true that our whale, having been born outside the herd, has consistently lacked peer contact his own age. Young Brillos cannot transmit garden organisms between each other, so the interaction here probably feels less fraught. Than it might with an adult, who could permanently dose him with life-altering symbiosis. We hypothesize that juvenile Brillo association is a necessary prior step to adult interaction. Regardless of how correct this assertion is, it successfully buys our study additional time. The two whales spend the rest of the day playing and are still chasing fish together when we leave them. Night falls.
Night falls, oh no.
But our whale is not asleep. GPS coordinates show he is swimming somewhere. As his aberrant behavior is still under scrutiny, the team moves to investigate.
Nah, kok aku pulang ke rumah? Oh ya, Sumi, dadah, Ariel. Hati-hati di jalan ya. Thank you udah mampir nonton.
A spotlight is aimed overboard. We discover more than just our whale. He is traveling with a pod of other youths. They all sing with curiosity at the sudden lights shining from above. We cut the power to avoid further disturbance. It's soon clear where the Brillos are headed. The first glimmers of action appear in the near distance. The night of the lamplighter fish has begun. The ocean starts to flash brilliantly as males battle for the attention of females. The weak are pierced open, spilling bioluminescence into the water.
Ini keren banget sih kalau kata aku.
They shine with complete indifference to predators attacking. Known as predator satiation, there are simply too many to all be eaten. His belly full of glowing fish bits, our whale watches the show reach its climax. It seems like he'll be up all night with the others. Confident in his safety, we recall our camera drones to finish their scheduled recharge.
Interesting.
By blocking wave activity, the barrier reef creates a wide lagoon behind it. The placid water stretches for several kilometers before being overtaken by a mangrove forest.
Mangrove forest, oh no.
Parts are so shallow that they become exposed to air at low tide. At high tide, other areas are deep enough for a troublesome young whale to get lost in. His friends weren't adventurous enough to follow him today. And for good reason, as our whale realizes once the water level starts to drop again. There's no time to play with the locals. The outgoing seawater feeds to several deep channels. Whisked through the trenches, our whale rides the rip current to safety, with no control over where it's taking him. After a lengthy ride,
Jadi dia adventure aja ngebolang guys ya.
he is spat out far from where he began. This is the end of the Great Reef. It's exposed and dangerous territory, but our whale can't help himself from having a look around. There's a sudden realization that he's being watched. Something is stirring within the cave behind him.
Apakah ada paus? Ada hiu?
It's another Brillo whale.
Oh. Oh, sebolang ini ya.
Our whale approaches, but there is no friendly greeting. This isolated loner is an exile from the herd. Banishment is reserved for excessive violence against fellow Brillos. Most likely, it was a mating joust that escalated to fatal combat. A deteriorated mental state from years of isolation is what has made him truly dangerous. Our Brillo can understand that a noiseless approach signals an attack. He whistles another greeting. it's met with an oppressive silence. The crown of a shark's jaw attests to this whale's staggering strength. But his secret weapon lies inside the crow's nest atop his hardened armor.
Apa nih?
The Vorpix octopus wakes when it senses a kill is imminent. He serves the role of a hunting partner who swims in advance. Usually it latches over the eyes of prey and attacks with its serrated beak. But when prey is so pitifully weak, he prefers to spectate. Our whale is far from being scared. He's experiencing a whole other emotion. He knows. This was unexpected. Abandoning caution, the calf sings and plays like he's found a new friend.
Lucu banget, lihat itu. Wah,
He goes in for a nuzzle and the harsh exterior cracks. How long has it been since the old-timer experienced any warmth of companionship? Maybe having a little apprentice killer won't be so bad.
Apprentice killer. Wah, ini bayi paus kita mau jadi revenge root, guys. Mau jadi villainous root. Mau balas dendam sama ikan hiu. Shark, mau balas
He
dendam
grunts,
sama shark.
struggling to remember a song that isn't also a threat. This isn't the scene of bloodshed that the octopus wanted.
Octopusnya ini yandere, bukan yandere apa tuh?
It seems he's witnessed this cycle once before, as he knows what might. The Vorpix presents our whale with a living piece of the armor plating.
Assassin whale.
A quick feel for the soft spot. And the deed is done. When the young whale wakes up, the implant will already have sprouted roots to hold firmly fixed in his skin. With this major milestone now documented, the mobile lab departs and will not rejoin the whale again until his adulthood. Implants will continue to transmit information about his physical development for a 20-year remote observation period.
Oh, 20 tahun.
This also ends the documentary team's access to the whale and concludes the first phase of our project. For us, raw data is far less compelling than first-hand observation of his body being reconstructed. 20 years is a long time for impatient humans to wait. When we do meet our whale again, it is hard to guess now what we might find. All the changes he experiences over 2 decades will be witnessed in a single moment. It should be nothing short of a complete metamorphosis.
Udahan kah? Wah, kok pendek juga ya?
This concludes South Scrimshaw Part 1.
Oh, beres dong,
Please
beres
keep
dong.
designated channels open for the transmission of Part 2.
Aku jadi nggak sabar ya pengen lihat gimana bayi whale kita balas dendam, guys, ke para shark, guys, ya. Villainous route. So interesting. Oke. Kita tunggu aja, part 2-nya belum rilis ya guys ya. Masih dibuat kayaknya sama developer. Ditunggu aja. Selesai. Oh iya, selesai. Nathan on Mars, interesting. Kan bener visual novel nih tuh. Nah, udah beres, guys. Yaudah, segitu aja kali ya. Wait, the whale got implant at that edge? Iya, dia ditancapin implant, guys. Jadi biar jadi whale pembunuh, killer whale, biar bisa balas dendam. Tadi ditancapin sama si octopusnya. Kocak sih itu, kocak banget ekspresi si whale ya. Yaudah, nanti hari Senin kita bakal stream BattleBit remastered ya guys ya. Open party, jadi siapa aja bisa join kalau punya gamenya. So, see you hari Senin atau enggak hari Minggu besok. Lihat aja waiting roomnya kapan ya guys ya. Semoga waiting roomnya cepat keluar. Ya, selamat malam teman-teman. Oh iya, itu temanku Hana mau ada baju baru, kalian datang ya dia. Ramein acaranya jam 9, 20 menit lagi lah. Sip. I reborn as the villainous whale, isekai anime. Kalian udah nonton ini belum? Isekai yang reincarnated jadi vending machine, tuh kocak banget sumpah. Gak ngotak, reincarnated jadi vending machine itu, ya ampun. Sungguh membanggakan sekali. Sungguh, this really surprised me, reincarnated as vending machine. Saya see you later antara besok sama Senin BattleBit remastered open party. I'll be waiting for you guys. Ayo beli game murah 150.000. Harusnya murah sih segitu. Halo, ya udah deh. Thank you guys. Thank you for coming to the stream. Ada Makavius, Ariel, dan Cerdok Yuki, Muhammad Yasin, Transdev Vigea, Vimux, NubNub, Noko, Bang Dewa, Haris H, Yuri, Haidar, Peter Parker, Lukas, Ahmad Raffi dan Kusuma, Imung. Ya lumayan lah ya segitu hari ini yang ngechat, lumayan ramai. Belum ngeliat trailernya aja cengok. Cengok apaan? Cengok apaan? Seru kok BattleBit remastered. Ya sudah lah ya guys ya, aku akhiri di sini. Makasih udah mampir. Selamat hari Sabtu, Otsumina. Thank you Renzo Dok udah tadi ngirim rendangnya. Thank you so much. Terima kasih. See you later. Bye bye. Cara udahannya gimana sih? Cara udahan stream, ending. Matiin dulu ya. Ending. Alah, bye-bye. Saya kok agak bingung sambil staring. Oh, itu kayak ini ya, game BattleBit tuh kayak Call of Duty tapi versi potato. Bye-bye. Thank you all. Love you all. See you next time.